A client of mine once briefed me for 30 minutes on a project, and it turns out it was the wrong project. And that meeting started my business and is now launching my next book, which we'll be writing together on this podcast for the next several weeks. Let's get into it.
Equipping creative businesses to unleash their best work.
Welcome back to the Chief Creative Podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Pead, founder and owner of Chief Creative Partners. And there and on this episode, everything that we do helps creative business owners unleash their best work through operational efficiency. And so today is a very special day. We're going to get into the next 12 or so weeks or 12 or so episodes. We're going to get into writing my next book, which is going to be called Creative Work, 10 Systems That Every Creative Business Needs. Now, I teased this at the beginning, but I want to give you the full story here of what actually happened, right? So I got hired coming out of 2023, transitioning out of full-time ministry, trying to figure out what I was going to do to make money. And part of that was I knew that I could edit video, and I knew that that job typically paid decently. And I have a friend of mine in Indianapolis who had recently founded his own video production company. And so I called him up and said, hey man, just here's what's going on. I don't know if you'd have any work for me, any editing that I can do for you. But I'd love to if we can. He says, sure, I'd love to send you some work. Let's talk next week about a project that I have for you. Great. So next week comes, I hop on the phone with him, and he spends the next 30 minutes briefing me on this project. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand. I'm asking questions. We're moving right along, right? And then he kind of suddenly stops and goes, oh no. And I said, what? He goes, man, I just realized that I've been briefing you on the wrong project this entire time. And I remember saying to him, half jokingly, half serious, I was like, well, you should just hire me to manage your operations. And we both laughed and chuckled about it. And he's like, I'm sorry, man. Let me get together. I'll call you back. And he called me back about 5 minutes later, very quickly. And he said to me, he goes, are you serious about managing my operations? I was like, yeah, man, I love that. That's what I've always done. I've always loved sitting in the in-between of the creative brainstorm, ideation, visionary, but also the tenacity and galvanizing of getting things done. I love that intersection, and that's where I thrive the most. So that's how my business, Chief Creative Consultants, and now Chief Creative Partners, was born. It didn't have a business plan. I didn't have foresight into what it was going to turn into, but it just started with a phone call about the wrong project. And from then on, I knew my calling was to serve creative business owners and entrepreneurs, founders of these creative businesses who got into it for the passion of loving what they do and loving their creativity. And suddenly they found themselves completely overwhelmed with everything else that comes with it, and being able to deliver consistent, excellent results over and over and over again while managing client relationships and documenting the processes so that they can actually scale those processes as more work comes in, because they're really good at what they do and how to handle all those things. And what I realize is that that story with Darren is not unique, right? That some version of that story is happening right now in every creative business everywhere. Creative people, they're not failing because of a lack of talent. They have the talent, they have the passion, they have what it takes enough to where people want to pay them for it, right? They're failing because of a lack of systems. And the cost of not having systems is burnout, lost clients, missed revenue, and eventually completely losing the love for the work that they started doing because they loved it. And so I'm writing this book, and I started this business because I lived that. I lived it for over 20 years, watching the same chaos repeat itself over and over and over again. So the question is not, are you talented enough? It's, do you have the right systems to let your talent actually show up? So this book that we're writing over these next episodes, and we hope to release either towards the end of this year or beginning of next year, this book is for creative business owners, designers, video producers, marketers, agency founders, anyone that is sustaining their livelihood through their creative work. Specifically, people who are really good at their craft, but they feel like the business side is eating them alive. This is not for people looking for marketing advice or creative inspiration or even a quick fix. The reader that I'm writing to is working nights and weekends and loves their work, but they really, really hate how chaotic everything has become. So here's the structure of this book. Creative Work is going to be a book about 10 operating systems that every creative business needs. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of every system that a creative business needs. This is just the top 10 that I think if you don't have any of these are probably the 10 best places to start. And none of this is theory. These are all real frameworks and systems and processes that I've tested with real clients for over 20 years. And we're going to break this book down into three sections or three stages of your business, really, right? The first stage is personal survival, right? You're drowning, but you're drowning alone. So we're going to give you some systems to help you survive just that minimal alone chaos, right? And the second section is going to be a little bit broader. Now we're spreading into the client experience, right? You have clients, you have multiple clients, you have more than one, right? But delivery can be a little chaotic and consistent. So we're going to spend the middle part of the book talking about that. And then at the end, just like every other business, we're in the people business. Even though your creative work serves usually other businesses, it is a people to people. The whole B2B thing is a myth, right? It's actually people to people. It's P2P that we're doing here. And so in our work, we're bringing a team along with us to scale because we can't grow our team without the systems to grow along with them. And so we need to have systems that allow us to stretch out a little bit and grow with our business. So this book is going to give you some practical roadmaps out of that chaos in those three sections of your business. And I believe that you need this book at any stage of your creative business as long as you are relying on that money to sustain your livelihood. It's not when you get bigger, it's not when you hire your first employee. The earlier that you build these systems, this infrastructure that I like to call it, this foundation, the less painful the growth will be as we begin to add more things on top of that foundation. But it's also never too late, right? These 10 systems work whether you're a solo creative or you're running a really large creative team or creative agency. So let's talk about where these systems are going to live once they get out of the book and you implement them into your business. They're going to be in your daily workflows. They're going to be in your client communication. They're going to be in your team meetings. They're going to be in your contractor renewals. They're going to be in your project scopes. They're going to be in kickoffs. They're going to be in project endings. They're going to be in onboarding your clients. They're going to be in offboarding your clients. They're going to be in communicating to your clients. They're going to be in communicating to your teams. They're not going to sit inside of some expensive software or some complicated process. Look, what I've realized over the years, myself included, that creatives are a breed of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? That Todd Henry says that creatives are like tigers, and I do believe that to a lot of extent, especially in his analogy. But I also think that they're like a T-Rex, right? They're strong and they're powerful and they're loud and they're vibrant and you can't miss them, right? But they also have really short arms. And what I mean by that in the context of this book is that if I build a system for a creative company or person and it's too far out of their reach, then they're never going to use it. And so these systems are designed to be within reach of our short T-Rex creative arms. They're simple, and that's the point. So just like the book is going to have 12 chapters, it's going to have an introduction chapter, which is what we're recording for this episode right here. Then it's going to have the 10 chapters talking about each of these 10 systems, and then we'll have a conclusion chapter. I want this to be an extremely practical book in the visuals, in the interaction, all of it. And I've got some really creative ideas I hope to flush out over these next 12 weeks. So 12 chapters, 12 episodes, one chapter or one episode per chapter per system, and then we'll do a conclusion at the end. So the goal is by the end that you're going to have an operating blueprint for the solid 10 most important systems that your creative business needs. So, next episode, we're going to jump right in with the very foundational framework that I've talked about many times on this podcast. But if you're new to it, or you're new to the chief creative process, if you will, we're going to jump right into the one system that saved my own sanity and the sanity of many other creatives around me over the last 20 years. And that is the do versus do framework. I want to close by saying if you ever felt like your talent is being buried under the chaos of running a business, and this series of podcasts is for you. This business that I have crafted and curated called Chief Creative Partners is for you. So if what I'm saying is resonating with you already and you're like, what he's saying is hitting exactly how I feel each and every day, then go to chiefcreativepartners.com and let's get on the calendar a discovery call with me and you so that we can build something together that actually works for you and your creativity so that you can unleash your best work yet. I'm super, super pumped about this podcast series, and I cannot wait to dive into chapter 1 next time on the Chief Creative Podcast. Have a great week.